everyone, and welcome to your guided reading lesson for today. So, as the title suggests, we're going to be doing an introduction to inference, okay? So, what is inference? An inference is an informed assumption that allows someone to reach a conclusion based on evidence or reasoning, okay? And this is a really important skill that's going to take if you can get good at this, it's going to take your reading to the next level, okay? And you can think of this almost as kind of like reading between the lines or looking for clues in a story, okay? The author, as you get more and more advanced as a reader and you start to read more challenging books and texts, the author is less likely to make things obvious, and they're going to be expecting you as a reader to do a bit more work and a bit more of filling in those gaps and kind of coming to your own conclusions, okay? So that's why developing these inference skills are so important for us as we try to get and become better and better readers. Now, we're going to start this practice. Although we obviously are looking to improve our reading skills as our end goal, we're going to start our practice by using some images, okay, to really get us into the mindset of inferring. So here are the images. What I'd like you to do is just pause the screen now and have a look at the image and see if you can have a quick go answering the questions. Not loads and loads, don't write loads, just have a think and see if you can come up with an answer for each one, okay? And just sort of get yourself into that inference mindset, okay? So give it a go, pause now, and then we're going to go through them together. Right, welcome back. So here we have our first picture. So we have what appears to be a mountain, okay? We've got a mountain here, and it looks to be a building and a tent, okay? So who's in the picture? Well, it's a mountaineer, isn't it? Okay, we'll see. It looks like, or it could be an explorer, similar thing. And so we can assume, we can infer that it's somebody climbing this mountain, okay? Or can we? Maybe they're coming down the mountain. Who knows? They might have already climbed it, and now they're on their way down. This is where we start to see that an inference is not necessarily a clear-cut answer. We need to come up with our own ideas. So, is it hot or cold in the mountains? Well, even if you're not aware of the science behind how as air rises, you get decreasing pressure and lower pressures lead to colder temperatures, even if you don't know anything about that, okay, let's look at what the mountain is wearing. They're wearing a woolly hat. They are wearing a thick coat and trousers, okay? Now, what can we infer from this? Well, we can infer that it's going to be cold, okay? That's cold weather clothes, isn't it, okay? So we can say, well, it's probably cold up there. Now, how do they feel? This is a tricky one, and I think maybe, depending on the mountaineer itself, maybe they're nervous. Maybe they're about to head up this mountain, and they've never been this high before. Maybe they've climbed Everest, and this is just a fun little trip for them. Okay, we just don't really know. Or perhaps they've now climbed the mountain and they're on their way back down, and they're feeling a little bit deflated because they're like, well, I've had the best bit, I've seen the view, and now I've got to go all the way back down. Okay, we don't know, but we can make an inference, and then as long as we can back it up with evidence, that's brilliant. Okay, evidence, that's all we need, and evidence and reasoning, we're good to go. Why has the mountaineer chosen this location? Well, we don't know. Maybe their dad climbed it many years ago and they wanted to emulate them. Maybe they just really like going high up so they can see a beautiful view. Okay, once again, it's up to you. You can infer, as long as you can back it up, you're fine. Right, next picture. So what do you think these people are talking about? Well, when I look at this, my first thought is it looks to me a bit like an interview situation. Okay, so we have a lady and a man, both dressed in quite smart business clothes, and the lady has what appears to be a sort of clipboard and is perhaps writing things down. Okay, so that's what I think. Oh, this could be an interview. Now, are they both feeling the same way? Well, I've looked at the lady's facial expressions, and she looks a bit shocked, doesn't she? If someone has their mouth open like that, it's usually because something's happened where maybe the man has said something a little bit shocking or something she wasn't expecting. Okay, whereas in contrast, the man looks quite relaxed, doesn't he? And if you look at the other questions, it's saying which person is the most relaxed. Well, I would say that the man looks more relaxed in this scenario right now. How can you tell? Well, if you look at the man, his posture is he's sort of leaned back on his bench. He looks quite chilled out and relaxed, whereas the lady is much more leaned forward, sort of ready to scribble down what he says at any moment. Okay, that's what I take from this, but maybe you see something else. Okay, you can start to see how just from one picture, although the only way to actually know what genuinely happened is by asking one of these people or someone who was there, we can start to make inferences about it purely on the picture. Okay, great. Now we're going to transfer those across to text, okay, and help us think about how we can look at text, read passages of text, and make inferences, sensible inferences from that. That's really going to enhance our understanding and sort of, improve, take our reading to that next level, like we said. So what's going to happen is I would like you to pause now, and I'd like you to read this passage. Now, you can either read that in the uploaded resource where we have the entire sheet. Basically, there's 4 questions for you to answer, and I'm going to go through one of them now, and then I'll go through the other ones later in another video, but I want you to have a go independently before you watch that video, okay? So read this passage now, pause now, and then we're going to talk through the first question together, okay? So pause now, have a read, and then we're going to go through it. Right, excellent. So as I said, we're going to go through question 1, which is explain why Philip did not exactly feel frightened. Okay, explain why Philip did not exactly feel frightened. So let's have a look at this. What are we getting from this passage? We see the first thing that comes to mind is the darkness, isn't it? So if you look at the picture, there's a dark picture, okay? The shadow of the dark arch looked out. So let me get my highlights, okay? So you could think about how these things like shadow, okay, dark, and then sort of silver in the moonlight, okay? So we're getting dark, and generally people associate darkness with kind of scary, unknown, that's our typical response as humans is the darkness. And then we've also got this here, we've got this deep night silence, okay? I'm sure some of you heard that word before, so eerie, an eerie silence, something that makes you go a bit like, oh, it's too quiet, okay? And that can make people scared. However, the question is asking us why Philip did not exactly feel frightened. So right at the end, if you notice, it says here, Philip did not exactly feel frightened. Okay, so why? What can we take from the text that's actually going to help us answer this question? And what I would say is that although let me get up my answer so we can see. So although he's in this kind of scary environment, actually he didn't feel frightened because nothing bad has actually happened. So although he's kind of in this place where you would assume perhaps things could happen that are bad, nothing has, and he's starting to get adjusted to this environment. And how can we find this from the text? What evidence can we take from the text? So, for example, it says here that his eyes are growing accustomed to the dimness. So Philip's getting used to the darkness, and he's not necessarily scared of it anymore. He's sort of like, right, okay, well, it's dark. I'm in this dark place, but I'm okay. And there's no monsters have appeared out of nowhere. There's no kind of scary things that happen. Nothing's fallen on my head. I'm kind of just getting used to it. And like anything in life, like think back to your first day at school, right? And now compare it to now. Your first day at school, you're probably terrified. You're like, well, everything's new. This is crazy. And this is especially true when you go to high school, okay? But then if you look back 2, 3, 4 years down the line, you're used to it. You know what happens. And you know what goes on, and you're okay. And it's similar here, where the longer he spends in this environment with nothing bad happening, the more relaxed he is, okay? The more he kind of feels comfortable. And then the other thing I noticed was that although there are these dark doors, they are firmly fastened, okay? And again, I feel like this adds to that sense of security, okay? The fact that the doors are fastened, they're locked. If you compare that to being in this dark, sort of dark place, mystical place, where there's just open. So people could come from anywhere. You could have people attack you from behind you. They could, all sorts of things could happen. He's in this place where the doors are firmly shut. So even if something was to come through, he would be prepared and he would know that it was going to happen because he would hear the doors move, okay? So all of that adds to this sense of growing security, and that can give us a reason why he didn't exactly feel frightened, okay? Now, again, we have to infer this. The author does not actually explicitly tell us. If you notice, Philip did not exactly feel frightened, but he did not exactly feel brave either, okay? So he's not, the author, he or she is not telling us whether the reasons why, okay? This is where we infer. We have to use our sort of make an assumption based on evidence and reasoning to give a sensible answer to that question, okay? Hopefully that makes sense. Now, please, I want you to have a go at the other questions. There's 3 more questions. Have a go, but please do not worry if you're finding this tricky, okay? Because this is a really hard skill, and this is our first time doing it. So if you're spending more than 10, 15 minutes on this, please stop, okay? Don't go crazy and spend the afternoon. I really don't want that, okay? Give the questions a go, but then don't worry, because you can come watch my video where I will explain all of my answers, not just question 1, okay? I'll talk through all the answers. I think I've already given you a pretty good head start on question 2, at least, where we're talking about how Philip did not exactly feel brave either, because we've spoken about this kind of the scariness of the environment. Okay, so I've given you a bit of a head start on that one, but give them a go. I'm really interested to see what you come up with, and then, like I say, I will talk through all the answers later on, okay, in another video that you can watch. Perfect. Best of luck, and I look forward to seeing what you come up with. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.